Welcome to another video tutorial from 2dgameartguru.com. Today I'm working in Affinity Designer 2.0 using the Shape Builder tool to create a mandala style pattern. This complex looking design can be broken down into just one slice. I created a symbol of that and then repeated it 12 times, rotating it 30 degrees each to make the full pattern. I recorded a video on the Celtic knot patterns using a Shape Builder tool earlier. I'll use the same approach for this design. I made this grid using circles and lines as a guide to help me place objects more easily. I create a vertical line with the pen tool, rotate it 15 degrees one way, duplicate it, rotate it 15 degrees the other way to create my 30-degree slice. I use these two lines and make them a symbol, bringing up the symbols panels and just clicking on create. This gives me the first instance of my symbol. I make sure my lines align with the grid, so when I rotate it, everything aligns properly. With the pen tool, I roughly set up the branch that runs from the outer to the inner part of my design. I duplicate and mirror it and then adjust the stroke width and the pressure curve. I duplicate the symbol and rotate it by 30 degrees. I repeat that with the Ctrl J power duplicate until I fill the whole circle. I group all of these duplicates and set the opacity down to 40%. I want to focus on the first instance. While working on this one, the others will get updated instantly and give me a good preview of the complete design. I use the node tool to add more nodes and adjust the existing nodes. I don't want both lines to look like identical copies. I want to achieve a look where the two lines look like they are interwoven. The parts where they overlap need to be convincing that one can run through the other and not just overlap. I duplicate the lines, widen the stroke and color them black, as this will be the outline and the line that I need for the intersection to work in Shape Builder. Seeing the expand to stroke is non-reversible. I can't get a line back out of a expanded curve. I make a duplicate of my lines. I hide the initial lines in the layer panel and work on the new group, expanding those lines to create vector shapes that can be used in the Shape Builder. I select the group of expanded lines, my two white and two black shapes, and using the Shape Builder I can now go in and mark the parts that I want to connect. I make sure I leave gaps where they overlap to get the below and above effect happening, alternating between below and going above the other line. Once I've selected all my shapes, I create a new object from the selected shapes. I reduce the opacity of my group and work with the newly created curve on top from now on. Having sorted out the intersections between the two lines, I now need to sort out the intersections between two symbols. Where they overlap, they need to be below or above the next symbol. I select the newly created shape in the symbol next to it, copy it and paste it into my current symbol, and do that on the other side as well. That way I have three copies of the same shape in my one symbol. In order to create the outline shape, I duplicate those three shapes and use the contour tool. I can't use the pressure curve as the shape has become too complex and there is no option for me to define that it's thicker on the outside of my design, it goes thinner towards the inside. I group my 6 shapes along with 2 guidelines and continue with the shape building. And in the process I stuff up, select the wrong shapes and start again. Keeping the above and below in mind, I select my shapes. This time I'm just going to do one side as a single shape. So once I've selected all the elements that make up one side, I create the new shape and then repeat the process with the other side. Once I selected all the shapes, I create the new curve. It will be placed on top of my group. Once I color it green and turn off the visibility of the group underneath, I get a pretty good preview of what my design looks like. There are minor parts that I need to fix. I forgot this little triangle here, so I just delete the node and straighten that line. I combine the 2 parts into one compound object, alter the coloring to a gradient and add an outline. I set the stroke to be behind the fill, that way it does not interfere with my pattern, and by adding a stroke I can see more little stuff-ups that need to be fixed. Unless you missed a major shape, it's usually rather easy to fix those tiny glitches with the node tool. In order to cover up the line where the symbols overlap, I create an additional shape, color it, curve it, and hide the lines. I adjust the stroke to match the widths I used for the shape building. I created those 4 symbols prior. I now adjust the leaf patterns and place them inside my mandala symbol. I lower the opacity of the group of symbols, so I just have the one symbol I've been working on all the time. I place the symbols, adjust the stroke, adjust the gradient, and try and fill the empty areas in my design by using 4 different leaves, scaled, mirrored, and rotated, used on top and below my lines. I try to make it visually more interesting. As the symbols are updated in real time, I can just work on the one symbol and the whole design gets updated, and I can see how placing a leaf on one side will affect the next symbol. With all of them in place, I turn the opacity of my group of symbols back on. I add an HSL adjustment layer on top to try different color variations. I quite like the red look. To soften the background a bit, I add a blurred shape behind the design and then go in, rather than use an HSL adjustment, I color the symbols. With the leaves being symbols, it's really quick to recolor. I just need one gradient that I then duplicate and paste the style to the next leaf, adjust the direction of the gradient, and finally recoloring the branches. And that's the finished design. It looks a lot more complex than it is. It does take a bit of practice and planning to get the overlaps right, but once you got your head around those, the Shape Builder tool is a great way to create organic or geometric patterns like these. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, set a reminder so you don't miss the next video I post, and let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see in this channel or on my blog. And I'll see you again soon.